Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I am part of a YouTube collective called This Space, which has its own YouTube channel, which I encourage everyone to go subscribe to. The goal is to eventually have like a 24/7 YouTube leftist channel where people can just go find out about different content creators, hear different perspectives. Not all of it is necessarily political, but just something that people can have on in the background, 24/7. And I'm one of the first contributors signed up for that. And so right now it's just going from Tuesdays to Thursdays for set periods of time during that day. And my regular slot for this right now is Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. So last week, Wednesday, September 10th, 4 p.m. Eastern, I went live. And there was some breaking news at that point. Yes, Charlie Kirk had just been shot, and so I didn't do what I was planning to talk about that day, and instead did live coverage of his unaliving. And I've had time to process it since, so I will be making a follow-up video about the fallout from his killing. But I wanted to also post on my channel the coverage I did of the actual incident, because I stand by a lot, well, all of what I said in it. And yeah, I went longer than I normally do because the letter hack also came on and joined me. So I'm going to be showing you a clip of that, a very long clip, but in it I have snipped out little parts where there might have been gaps or I went a little off topic. So to see the whole thing, you can go to this space, which I will have linked in the description box below, to see the full coverage starting with my show at 4 p.m. Eastern, and you can scroll. There's a little chapters thing too that you can go to find where I start, or just start watching it from the beginning and have 11 hours worth of content to watch, one or the other. And you can see my full coverage with the letter hack as well as the other people who came on afterwards who were also talking about the incident, because it's important to get lots of people's different perspectives on this, I find, and to learn that, yeah, no, a lot of us we weren't celebrating his unaliving. That's not what we were doing. There are some larger political issues at play with it, and we were quite shocked with the violence, like the brutality of it, seeing it. I saw the up-close video of it, which I don't recommend people go see. So with all of that said, here is my live coverage of what happened. Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. This space. Ooh. Hello, welcome to This Space with Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. So I'm just going to be checking Twitter, like I always do. And oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So breaking news over the past hour. Whew. I'm, if you don't know, if you don't know yet, Charlie Kirk was shot at an event. His status is unknown, but I've seen the footage. If you've seen the graphic footage that's floating around on Twitter, it does not look good. He was shot in the neck and he was rushed away to hospital, but as far as I know, that I've been searching media, there's no there's no statement on his condition. And the fact that there is no statement on his condition is also a bit disconcerting. Yes, so for people who are already wondering, no, I'm not going to be showing any footage. Not to mention it would be against TOS on YouTube, but also I don't like violence. I don't like sharing violence like that. There's a couple shots. One shot is from a distance, another shot is closer up, and it is very graphic. I don't even like seeing violence of any, like, I don't like violence of any sort coming across my feed on Twitter. A little trick for people that will sometimes censor some of the more graphic stuff is if you remove your birth date from Twitter, because then if it gets marked as age-restricted content, you won't be able to see it, so you won't be involuntarily eyeballing it when you're just scrolling through. But yeah, it is very, very graphic. And if you've seen it, I don't recommend you search it out if you haven't seen it. And so I think this is the big news of the moment. I do have some articles and stuff that I've popped up that are covering it so far. Donald James X, I keep getting conflicting reports that he is dead or not. When it comes to some things like this, especially breaking news, do not rely on anything you're saying unless it comes from an official news source or the police, like through a press conference or something. Because already, just scrolling through Twitter, I'm seeing reports of the shooter being a Democrat. We don't know yet. This has just happened. It's just breaking. To assume motives would be presumptuous at this point, because, you know, some people do these sorts of things for reasons other than political. We don't know yet. But from what I've heard, they do have the shooter in custody. So also be careful of what you're putting into the subspace right now, because, you know, it's the Fed posting, I think people call it, is a thing. It is a thing. But yeah, so I've heard the news, I've seen the news about Charlie Kirk, and I do not agree with violence whatsoever, even if it's perpetrated amongst the worst of the worst. I would like to see people, ideally like Charlie, change, change and become decent people. You can't do that if you're not on this planet. Like, I believe in rehabilitation and changing minds and things of that sort. Also, this sort of public, like, political violence never has the results that you want. Never. Because I will bring up something that happened earlier. So when it comes to these sorts of things, the consequences, depending on who the perpetrator is never even. It's never balanced. Because, very prominent prime example right now is Israel and Gaza. Israel gets to do stuff with pretty much impunity, but then as soon as Hamas does something, it's all out genocide. The right, if this is a political shooting, we don't know yet if it is, the right will use this, and I've already seen coverage that they're already saying, oh, well, there was the attempts on Donald Trump, there was the CEO who was shot, and using these very cherry-picked instances of where the person is potentially more left-wing. And the law is not applied evenly. That is the reality, and it's not fair to us on the left, because they will crack down on us in ways they would never crack down on the right, because within the law enforcement across the board in the United States and Canada, in most places, they follow the authoritarian lead. And so there's a lot of those right-wingers that they would have to crack down on that go to their weekly barbecues. So they're not going to, but they will crack down disproportionately on the left. Prime example is this. I probably should have popped it up already. There we go. So this was after a recent shooting. Trump DOJ is looking at ways to ban transgender Americans from owning guns, sources say. And this is one of the rare instances where even the NRA is like, we're going to have some principles on this, some consistency, and we don't think anyone should have their guns right banned and all that sort of stuff. But this is, again, a prime example of how the authoritarians in charge will use this as an excuse to crack down on the left even harder. Political violence, like, it does not matter. The goals are never good. Like, it never has the outcomes you want, because all this does is stoke up more violence, more anger, more rage, and it puts targets on people who have, have done nothing wrong. So political, blatant, unconstitutional Second Amendment group slams floated gun ban for transgender Americans, and from the Independent. So even the NRA is against Trump team plan to ban trans people from owning firearms. It is my understanding that the likelihood of this happening, of this law going through banning trans folks, won't happen, because there's no likely way that it's going to be worded specifically enough to just target trans folks without targeting, because the category that they're trying to put it under is some sort of mental health condition. But then there's people who aren't trans who will have similar mental health conditions for whatever reason that would then be umbrellaed into that, which, the absolute gun ammo sexuals don't want. So it is very unlikely to go through, but it's just an example of how they crack down on the left far harder than they will on the right. And like I said, I do not agree with violence. That is just a hard no. I do not want to see it. I do not want to see it used as an outcome or like a means to an end, anything of that sort. Because I did pull up this. So this, again, I'm not going to be showing the shooting. This was the scene afterwards. And this is from a Twitter account, and it gives you a good idea of some of the dangers that are combined with this.
Okay, love you. Be safe. Okay, be safe.
So as you can see, this happened in a very crowded venue. When you shoot a gun in a crowded venue like this, you risk collateral damage, as one might say, a stampede, and people getting injured or killed within a stampede. So to do this type of violence in a group like this is exceedingly dangerous. Let's just see, I just saw a comment here. So Bengal7 is just saying, I understand you're standing against violence, but sadly many of us don't have the privilege to choose. Violence in self-defense is one thing, and some people might try to argue that this is in self-defense. But again, this is going to come around and bite you if this type of thing gets normalized, because the amount of leftists or people on the left who do this type of thing is few and far in between. And it is predominantly the right wing that is more violent, which means us people on the left are more likely to be the target. So even if it's for your own self-interest, you cannot be celebrating this right now. Like, I will shed no tears should somebody like Charlie Kirk pass on, because he's doing a lot of damage to this world. That said, I don't want it done this way. I don't want it done through violence, natural causes, whatever you want to call it, because I want people to change. I want somebody with a platform as large as his to change and become something better and become, a role model for what could be. We don't achieve those goals by just executing people. Because even just look at what happened to the CEO of the health insurance. What has changed since? Has anyone health insurance gotten better? Anyone? And the Let's switch back to just me here. Nobody's life has actually gotten better from that. And that was an instance where people on the left and the right were celebrating it and putting Luigi on a pedestal and all that sort of stuff because everyone's been harmed by the health insurance companies and whatnot. It hasn't changed policy. It hasn't changed people's, insurance plans. It has done nothing to improve the quality of life for people other than make those authoritarians in charge a little bit more trigger happy. In self-defense, I completely understand it, but this is never the answer. And also keep in mind, as Groove Dragon is pointing out, when Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked, Charlie Kirk thought it was funny. Yes, people on the right would celebrate if somebody like me got shot publicly. Does that mean it's okay for us to do the same? Is that the type of person you want to be? Like, I can understand it. I absolutely can understand it. And if you want to do it privately and have your own little celebration, that's fine. But is that the energy you want to be putting out in the world right now? Because, like, I know even when Donald Trump passes away from whatever reason, there's going to be a lot of celebrations. And again, I'm not going to shed a tear for him. And if it's not done through violence, I might be a lot happier, if it's just natural causes and stuff with his health conditions and whatnot. The world will be better off without him, but to do it like this puts so many more people in danger. So many more people are at risk of harm from the authoritarian right that is currently in charge if things like this escalate, because it is predominantly going to be people on the left that suffer those consequences. And, I get that people on the right, again, would celebrate. They were celebrating Nancy Pelosi's husband getting attacked. They were making memes. They were having fun with it, all that sort of stuff. I get it. But is that the type of person you want to be? Really? To be celebrating the violent death of someone? Is that who you want to look at in the mirror? Somebody who celebrates this. I want people to change, to become better. I want protests. I want, property damage, whatever. I don't care about property damage, all of that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the lives of individuals, what would this accomplish? If Charlie Kirk has passed away, which if you've seen the original footage, and I don't recommend you search it out if you haven't, it doesn't look likely that he survived. Don't know yet. And the thing is do not take any credence in what people say online. I thought I got rid of all that until you hear it from a reputable news source or the police are giving a statement. So it's already in the Canadian newspapers, the Canadian news. So let's bring this one up. So this is from CBC. I haven't read this yet, but knowing the CBC, they're not about to show gory footage and stuff like that. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and all. Conservative commentator and Trump ally Charlie Kirk shot at university event. So already Donald Trump has released a statement. J.D. Vance has released a statement. If this was done for political reasons, you're not going to send out the message you were hoping to send out. That, the right should be afraid. No. They will use this. The authoritarians will use this to justify what they are about to do. Just like Netanyahu used what Hamas did to justify what he really wanted to do. They will use this as an excuse. Charlie will be seen, if he passes away, he'll be seen as a martyr. He will be celebrated. I wouldn't doubt they would build fucking statues for him. Taking him out like this doesn't benefit the political movement at all. Also, I hate to be that person. He has kids. His children someday might see the footage of him being shot on TV. Is that what you want for them? Like, there's in self-defense, when there's, the protests that break out and the police start attacking the protesters and stuff, I can get violence there. I can understand violence in self-defense. But to just go out and assassinate someone, it's not going to turn out the way that you're hoping. So Fox News reported Kirk was hospitalized. U.S. right-wing activist and commentator Charlie Kirk was shot on Wednesday at an event at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, and a suspect was in custody. Kirk, 31, is an influential ally of President Donald Trump and co-founder of Turning Point USA, the largest conservative youth organization in the country. And yeah, I'll say it, it's one of the most dangerous ones too. There's no doubt about that. But again, back to my point, would assassinating Charlie Kirk hurt Turning Point USA or make it more viable, make it more mainstream, make it more popular as people turn to that? He was taken to the hospital, Fox News reported. A spokesperson told NBC News that Kirk was giving a presentation when shots fired. To the best of our knowledge, he was hit and taken with security team away from the premise. Video of the incident circulating on social media showed Kirk addressing a large outdoor crowd when a loud crack that sounded like a gunshot rang out. Kirk can be seen briefly moving his hand to his neck as he falls off his chair, sending the attendees running. Sorry, I saw the footage, and it is graphic. It's not something I want to see done to anyone. I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in sending people to El Salvador's prisons. I don't believe in any of that. Seeing this death, if he passes away from it, I don't believe in it for all the same reasons. Because again, people who are on the left will also be targeted. Innocent people will be targeted. Innocent people will be hit in the crossfire. Not everyone who is targeted is guilty of a crime of any sort. And even if they are guilty of a crime, does it deserve death? Do you deserve to die for your speech? A shot was fired from a nearby building, and we have a suspect in custody, university spokesperson told Reuters in an email. Local TV station KSL-TV aired a video of an older man wearing a blue shirt being led away by police following the attack. We are closely monitoring reports of the tragic shooting involving Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, FBI Director Kash Patel said on X. Our thoughts are with Charlie, his loved ones, and everyone affected. Kirk, an activist and the founder of conservative student group Turning Point USA, played a key role in driving youth support for Trump last November. Again, this is a horrid organization that has caused a lot of damage. This will only make them stronger, no matter the outcome. If Charlie lives, if he passes away, this will only make that organization stronger. His events at college campuses nationwide typically draw large crowds. Kirk has been an effective voice for the conservative movement. He has 5.2 million followers on X, has a host of popular podcasts and radio. Okay, we know this. President Trump called for prayers. We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot, a great guy from top to bottom. I do disagree with that. Trump posted on social media. Both Republican and Democrat politicians expressed support for Kirk following the shooting. Political violence is never accepted, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the U.S. House of Representatives, said on X, my thoughts and prayers with Charlie Kirk and family. Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre also responded on social media, writing on X, we must all strongly denounce the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Political violence is never justified. I'm going to quickly see if there's any updates. So far, no new updates that, from what I can see, state his condition. Here, I'll just share this. It's from CNN. So Broadcastify audio details Charlie Kirk shooting at Utah Valley University. We don't need to hear the moment. The sound reported one individual that was shot unknown. Let's be advised, UVU in Oren has an active shooter, but they've apparently got a suspect. So from 8 minutes ago, Utah Valley University closes campuses and cancels classes until further notice. Utah Valley University closes its campus and is canceling classes until further notice, according to an ex post by the school. Officials advise students to secure in place on campus until police can escort them off campus. Now, this would be because even though they have a suspect for Charlie's shooting, it doesn't mean they were a lone actor. You know, they have to rule out all these sorts of things to make sure that, you know, he wasn't working with someone, all that sort of stuff. There's no motives at this point, nothing. Oh, I was showing the wrong screen. Sorry. I'm bad at doing this. I'll add this back to the stage. I'll show the proper screen, share this tab instead. There, it's CNN now instead of CBC. So we can pop that back on. See? Okay, look. This was the first article out about it. Charlie Kirk shot at Utah event, suspect not in custody. Apparently they are now. And it was a very, very short article because, you know, it is all breaking news and that's very teeny tiny print. So Charlie Kirk was shot at an event at Utah University, even though this was posted, you know, just a short time ago, 12:34. Things are changing, and as is breaking stories, things are going to change super fast. But also this news broke. There we go. I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I'm always want to make sure I set up the screens before I put them up. This news broke while we was live on the Majority Report. So I'll pause that, and then I will make this big, and then I will share this tab instead, and then I will add to stage. So it broke live on the Majority Report. I think I need to have my headphones in for this. Just a second. But this was the news breaking live on the Majority Report.
See ya. You will not be missed.
So this happened like right at the end of the show, so they didn't have time to really look into it.
Charlie Kirk may have just been shot. Is that true?
No way. Don't spread. Don't say that.
Make us react to that live.
Yeah, please.
Pass. We'll see.
Oh, well, this is not crazy to say. There was a Charlie Kirk event, and there was at a TPUSA event. We don't need to react to it live, but there might have been some violence at a TPUSA event. I'm not sure if Charlie Kirk was there, but I hope everyone's okay.
Somebody is just saying the shot rang out. Horrible.
Okay.
All right. 4 more. Oh, people are saying that
Deseret News was reporting it.
that Charlie Kirk was shot
Suspect in custody
in Utah. This is breaking. Charlie Kirk shot in Utah at a TPS event.
Oh, wow. I still am not seeing it confirmed that he himself was shot.
I'm reporting it. Deseret News. Charlie Kirk shot at Utah event.
Okay, wow. All right.
Put up this. Put up the link of that. Can you get that?
Yeah, I have it here. Deseret News, at least, is reporting.
Me too. I saw this right before.
There was a TPUSA at Utah Valley University. Bystanders report seeing Kirk shot near his neck during a Q&A with students, and the suspect is in custody, and the campus is on lockdown.
It wasn't near his neck. It was through his neck.
Bystanders reporting at this point.
So we can't confirm this, but this is what is being. And do we know anything about Deseret News?
They're like a Mormon, but they're like a fairly high-profile Utah-based publication.
A lot of weapons. I don't know what the weapons laws are in Utah.
Well, that's extremely scary. hope everybody is okay, and we need comprehensive gun control.
Yep. All right, no indication as to how serious it was, but people are saying he got shot in the neck. But I have no.
According to bystanders, so it looks like it was. And then there is video of everyone scattering. So, America.
Do we have that video? Should we play that video?
Okay. All right. I mean, I guess we should. If we're getting a local paper confirming it, and it's a pretty significant story.
Right here. 44 seconds ago by NTG.
Here is a video here, supposedly.
They don't end up showing any
I
videos.
just put that in the chat. I don't know who.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Yeah, I don't want to show that.
Okay, we can remove this. I'm just trying to get up-to-date information because this is breaking really fast. Just refreshing. So I'm opening up my Twitter here. And there are people who are stating things like, circling back to comments that Charlie Kirk has made on his Twitter account. Democrats say if confiscating all guns saved just one life, it would be worth it. Someone pointing out that Charlie Kirk has defended every massacre in Gaza and used every platform available to justify Israel's starvation campaign. Yeah, people are pointing out there's no doubt about it. He was a horrible person. This type of thing won't change that. It would only make him seem survive or not survive. It would only prop him up on the right wing, one way or the other. It doesn't change the narrative. It actually exacerbates it, no matter the outcome. I absolutely understand why people might celebrate his death, but it will only make things worse for people on the left, for people's safety, because right now the authoritarian right are in power. He's part of it, and he's probably, I have no doubt, he's supported Netanyahu and the massacres that are happening over in Gaza. This doesn't change that narrative. It would only justify Trump's actions. He'll use it to justify things that he already wants to do to people. That's all it will do. They will use something like this to justify taking away people's rights, to justify state violence inflicted on people. Political violence like this is never the answer. And if he has a really loud platform and is spewing all these, pro-genocide stuff, we need to speak louder. We need to overpower that. We need to take away his platform to be able to do that. But by doing this, all you're going to do is make him more, more prolific, more up on a pedestal and things of that sort. Still, I'm trying to see if there's any other kind of live updates on this. So I'm still not seeing anything about his status. And the fact that we still haven't heard anything is disconcerting. It could mean that he's in surgery and they don't know if he's going to survive, but I've seen the footage. I would find it highly, highly unlikely. I don't believe in the death penalty, so I would never support anything like this. So polygraph lie detector, not sure many leftists 80-year-old armed up, to be honest. From what I have seen, the person taken into custody is an older white man. But we do not know his motive yet. Making assumptions or being presumptuous about it, which the right is already doing. They're already saying it was a Democrat who shot him. There are many, many reasons why this type of thing happens. But, granted, in this day and age, it's most likely, there's a higher percent chance it's going to be politically motivated than not. Whether and sometimes those politics are very convoluted in their manifestos and stuff of that sort. This is unnerving because I do also worry about what is next. How Trump will react to it, because how Trump is with people who are loyal to them, and Charlie Kirk has been very loyal to him. So this is only going to, justify whatever Trump wanted to do. Like he's purposely putting the National Guard in cities in antagonistic situations. I feel because he is purposely trying to antagonize the crowds, for the crowds to lash out and do something. I don't know how many people here are a fan of Andor, but there's an episode in season 2 where this is exactly what happens, where they purposely put inexperienced people in a place where violence could happen, and violence does happen, and they use that as an excuse. And so Trump will just use this as an excuse, just like he's using, putting the National Guard in areas, just hoping, again, that's my opinion, that somebody in the crowd would lash out, because then that gives him free rein to see those people are violent, those people are doing blank, we need to crack down, we need to put more people on the streets and everything like that. It doesn't end well for the people the authoritarians are targeting first, and that is people like us, people on the left, queer folks, trans folks, people of color, immigrants, refugees, people of vulnerable groups, people living with poverty, people living with disabilities, people we know, people we love, people part of our friends and family networks. Those are the people that they will target first. And so this is not a good thing. I don't want to see people celebrating it. My tone would probably be different if he just had, a natural cause thing. But this type of violence is never justifiable. Oh, there was this tweet that I saw that was relevant to this. RFK talking about mass shootings and trying to connect it to people with SSRIs. So ASIN had tweeted this out, RFK on mass shootings. There's many things that happened in the 1990s that could explain these. One is the dependence on psychiatric drugs. There could be connections with video games, which is just absolutely wholeheartedly false, as the tweet above kind of explains.
Switzerland has a comparable number of guns as we do, and the last mass shooting they had was 23 years ago. We're having mass shootings every 23 hours. Oh, there are many, many things that happened in the 1990s that could explain these. One is the dependence on psychiatric drugs, which is in our country is unlike any other country in the world. It could be there could be connections with video games, with social media, or a number of things, and we are looking at that at NIH. So we are doing studies now. We're initiating studies to look at the correlation and the connection, potential connection between over medicating our kids and this violence.
And they've been trying to find that connection since the 1990s, and it still hasn't happened because there is no real connection. Because Shannon Watts had tweeted out, Iceland is the world's biggest consumer of SSRIs. They've had less than 10 gun homicides since 2020. In the US, there have been over 90,000. Japan is one of the largest video game markets in the world. They've had 10 gun deaths per year. The US has nearly 50,000. It's the guns. Yeah. It's the guns. Canada is another prime example of the differences because here in Canada, we have gun ownership at about the same rate, like not the quantity. So like the United States is the highest, Canada is the second highest, and there is quite the gap there. But like percentage of people who own guns is roughly equivalent. However, in the States, there's more prevalence. So I remember I covered this when I was doing Rebel HQ. So in the United States, there's more guns than people. So they would do this thing per 100 people, there's this many guns or whatever. And for every other country, it was below 100. But in the United States, it was more than 100 guns per 100 people. It's the prevalence, it's the ease of access to guns. Here in Canada, when an incident like this happens, there does tend to be a crackdown. And I don't worry about going out and getting shot. That's not something that has ever crossed my mind. But I just want to take a breath. Let's change. So if I start with, okay, I do this. Sorry, I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'll start
Ding
with
dong,
this.
ding dong, ding dong.
I think I need to check updates. According to CNN, just in, President Donald Trump says conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at an event in Utah Valley University. And now they're saying the suspect in the shooting is not yet in custody, according to spokesperson from Utah Valley University, despite the school saying earlier police did have someone in custody. Donald Trump previously praised Kirk as, okay. Yeah. So that's so President Trump announced today that conservative activist Charlie Kirk has died after being shot during the event. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead, Trump wrote on Truth Social. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie, the president went on. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. So, yes, he had 2 children as well. Now it doesn't feel like the appropriate time to talk about Abansky in London. So, yeah. Apparently they don't have the person in custody, so the images earlier of an older gentleman being arrested could have been for whatever reason. That is, again, why it's important to wait until there's official news announcements on this. And even now, it's just Trump saying on Truth Social, I'd like to hear it from the police. But again, I saw the footage. It's not good. It's not good. I'm going to quickly check any other news sources right now. So I'll remove that while I'm Googling it. Let's see what the AP is saying. Like, I'd prefer to hear it come from like officials at the hospital or the police. Hey. Oh my gosh. Look who it is. It's Frodo. Hey, sweetie. This is my beautiful 18-year-old. Yeah, this is my beautiful 18-year-old kitty. Thanks, sweetie. He doesn't tend to come on camera much anymore. Hey, baby. This is what people need right now. This is the one that I took to the vet recently because of the lump. He still has the lump on the side of his neck, and it still is a cause of concern because it can always change to something else, but right now he's fine. You just came in here because you wanted a T word. That's all. You just wanted a T word. He loves his treats. Oops. I shouldn't say that out loud. He actually knows what that word means. There you go. I know, you don't actually like coming on camera. So live updates, Charlie Kirk has died after being shot at an event in Utah, President Trump says. Conservative activist has died after being shot at the event. So right before, it's like the victim, Charlie Kirk, is being treated in critical condition. A law enforcement official briefed the shooting, told the Associated Press. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the matter. Kirk co-founded, which we know, the person who was taken into custody at Utah Valley University was not the suspect, according to a person familiar with the investigation, and was not authorized to speak publicly. It was not clear if authorities were still searching the campus for a suspect. There's going to be, graphs. Apparently they shot from 200 yards away, which I'm not a gun aficionado. I don't know much about. I've held a gun, but I've never shot a gun. I'm guessing this is somebody with practice. I'm guessing that it was somebody who knew what they were doing. So I am going to just respond to comments in subspace as we go along. So I guess that's part of the reason why they still have the lockdown, because earlier I thought the lockdown was happening because they didn't know if the shooter was a lone shooter or not. But now the lockdown is because the shooter is still on the loose and they don't know who it is. So that said, again, we don't know what the motives are. Is it politically motivated? My lenience would be towards guessing yes, it is. But that said, it doesn't mean that it's a left-wing politically motivated thing, because as far as I know, Trump was targeted by right-wingers. So there's a whole host of reasons why somebody would do this for political motivations, and sometimes it's very mishmashed all over the place, because the people who do these things aren't sane. To go to this level to try to get a means to your ends, to go out and shoot someone, is not the actions of somebody who is stable, is not the actions of somebody who has a good moral compass going on, who is thinking clearly. So it's hard to say right now what the motives of the shooter would be. There's a whole host of reasons, whole host. But from what we could probably easily deduct is the person had experience to be able to shoot from that distance. Does the letter hack want to come on? So yeah, this is it's not a good turn. There will be mixed reactions on social media for sure. There's going to be people celebrating it on the left for sure. That again, it's not a good look. It's not somebody that I want to be to celebrate the violent death of someone. And I am being very specific with the language that I'm using, violent death, because if somebody dies of natural causes and they're a horrible person, that's a different category. But this is, political violence. I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in doing an assassination like this. I don't care who the person is. And so if you want to be consistent on these issues and principled, even if it's somebody you think is doing a lot of damage to the world, and I think Charlie Kirk did an immense amount of damage. I think he helped get Donald Trump elected. You have to be consistent even when the people are horrible. And I don't think that it's okay to choose these extrajudicial killings, because it makes it easier for other people to justify their actions too, for justice and vengeance. And then people can start looking at this like, maybe I can do this because I don't like this person, and it can start getting amplified and all that sort of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of things going out in the news over the next while, but you're going to have to be careful and conscious of what you're paying attention to, because there's going to be a lot of false information going out there as to who the shooter is and stuff. If it's coming from the right wing right now, other than like the president mentioning that Charlie passed, I wouldn't take it at face value. So already, like, when I was just glancing on Twitter, people were saying it was a Democrat who did the shooting. We don't know. We don't know who it is. And again, until an official news source reports on it, or the police or hospital staff give a report, take everything you hear with a good dose of skepticism, because already the news was wrong, because things were happening so fast. Already, like CNN and other news outlets were reporting that the suspect was in custody earlier. And now we're learning that's not the case. And that's the difficulties and the troubles of trying to cover these things live, is that there's going to be a lot of misinformation out there, not intentional. It's just a lot of these big news agencies, they want to be the first to break the news. And so as soon as they hear something that they think is coming from an official source, they'll latch onto it, and they'll post it, and they'll put it out there, because they want to be the first in the heat of the moment and stuff, without necessarily doing their due diligence. And then other people start picking up on it, and before you know, oh, I guess the suspect is in custody. But we don't know that yet until the police tell us that's the case. And so the police, a spokesperson for the police, have said, well, let's see, the suspect in the shooting is not yet in custody, according to a spokesperson from Utah Valley University, despite the school saying earlier police did have someone in custody. So again, a lot of it's going to be hearsay. We need to wait to see what the police say when they give their press conference. They're probably not going to give one until they have a good idea as to who the suspect is. So there's going to be a lot of footage from the event. Again, if you don't like seeing that sort of violence, stay away from Twitter right now. There's going to be a lot of video evidence. The police will be going around trying to collect that video evidence. They already know where the shooter shot from, apparently 200 yards away. So that will narrow in their search on who they're looking for. And as soon as the police have a name, I would imagine that they will either go and seek that person out. But if they're having troubles locating the person, then they'll do a press conference to let the public know this is the suspected shooter. So we're only going to hear from the police when they know who it is or they have the person in custody. That is my feeling on the situation. So you're going to be hearing a lot of rapid fire stuff coming out. Tomorrow, I'm sure the majority report will be covering it, no doubt. And after 24 hours, a lot more information will be clearer as to what happened. It is, yeah, it's pretty disturbing. And I do not recommend anyone go look at the footage if, like, just don't. Even if it's something you want to see, I don't know why you would want to, just don't. It's not, it's graphic. It's graphic. And somebody is mentioning something, I'm not necessarily going to put that comment up, but yes, the authoritarians that are in power right now will use this to their advantage to implement things that they've been wanting to do in the first place. They'll use this as an excuse, but also they'll keep using this as a distraction from some of the bigger stories at hand right now, such like the Epstein files and whatnot. This will be used as a distraction from their crimes. This will be used as a distraction from what Netanyahu is doing. Because since this is something that happened in the United States to a public figure, it's going to get a lot more press coverage than another massacre in Gaza. Not that they were getting much in the way of coverage in the first place. So authoritarian governments can use this as a cover right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is something that they do. Yeah, so I would recommend staying away from right-wing sources on this right now, because as with the case with any sort of mass shooting, public shooting, they will immediately blame trans folks, people on the left. We've seen this time and time again before they have any idea who it is. We're going to get a lot of misinformation right now. It's okay. So I think it's easier if I just say it out loud to Nicholas right now. I am fine ending right now. I'm also fine continuing on right now. This is a very heavy subject. It's very much in the news right now. So I am good to continue talking about this. It's also a way that I process things. So it is up to the producer and I guess the letter hack right here.
Hey, how's it going, Sandy? Let me just say, right off the bat, great coverage. Thank you so much for how you've been covering this. Thank you for covering this. Very professional, nice and buttoned up. Exactly what we can expect from all of the contributors to this space. I really, really do appreciate the tone and your candor. I think that it is I'm just continually impressed with the way we have a group of people who, you know, as far as I know, no professional broadcasting training or schooling, but we can just go on air and broadcast. We can do this. And so you have exemplified that. And I just want to say thanks and great job. I do have some updates that I can give people really quick, just show notes and all the mods. If you're listening, I haven't had a chance to put this in the mod channel on our private work only Discord. We'll be going live from now to the rest of the night. We're not going to do any more syndicated content until probably around 8 p.m. We'll see. After Sandy and I will be here for as long as possible. We may have some other hosts join us here and there. But Dieter McBusiness and Alex from Devil's Advocate Productions will be on live at 7 p.m. to cover this story, the Charlie Kirk shooting. And I can now officially report it because I'm pretty sure you haven't yet, that Charlie Kirk has passed.
Yeah, I have mentioned that.
Okay.
Because there's a Donald Trump was truth socialing about it. So that's been posted in CNN and the AP already, that Donald Trump has announced it.
So here's what we know. According to NBC News, right-wing political activist Charlie Kirk was shot at an event, and he was hosting it at Utah Valley University in Orem, just north of Provo. President Trump said on Truth Social that Kirk is dead. I think that's, just a note. That's a bizarre way. Like, I would never want that to be the way that people found out about me. I think that's like, who, it's just, I don't know. He's like showboating. You know what I mean? It's like he's just putting himself in the spotlight again. Kirk was removed from the premises by a security team, the school said. Videos circulating online show, graphic detail. And as you said, and as I would recommend to everyone, there's really no need to see that kind of stuff. It may very well become a matter of historical record down the line, and then it'll be done in an educational context, in a documented context, like a documentary, but there's really no reason to, run out and see that, because our imaginations are pretty good at coming up with this. And then when you see it for real, it really drives home how graphic that sort of situation is and how awful it really is. And it's the kind of thing that, I think the majority of us don't want to see happen to anybody. But then a university spokesperson said they do not have a suspect in custody. The school previously said in an alert that police had someone detained. To your point, Sandy, the news comes very quickly in these cases. No one really, they just say, oh, we heard this, and then people take it for news, for fact, verbatim, and that's not smart. There was talk that there was more than one suspect. Who knows? And I saw at least somebody, maybe it was this chat or another chat on another show I was watching earlier, somebody said, what do we know about the guy? Well, it's very rare that they would say anything about the actual perpetrator until after the fact by 24 hours. I kind of feel like, tell me what you think. Are they trying to get their story straight on how we're going to talk about this person and what we're going to say in the mainstream? Or is it really just, the cops or the authorities wait to roll out that information? Everyone just runs with it.
Well, there's a couple possibilities that's happening right now. One is the cops don't know who it is. And so they're still trying to determine that. And until they do, they're not going to say anything. Also, they could know who it is, but they don't want to tip that person off yet. Right. So they could be in the process of tracking down the actual shooter.
What about when they do know? What about when they're, because they don't always roll that out right away.
I would imagine they will attempt to apprehend the person first and then announce who it is versus the other way around. Because again, they don't want to necessarily tip off the person. They don't want to cause panic to other people who might be near that person necessarily. So I would imagine that we're only going to hear from the police once they've actually apprehended the person or they need help locating the person. But until they actually have a good idea who the suspect is, I don't think we're going to be hearing from the police. And right now, I imagine they're going through cell phones that they gathered from the site, because I do find it interesting that they already know that the shooter shot from 200 yards away. So they know where the shooter was located. So that means that they're going to be focusing on video cameras from around that area, cell phone from people in that area to try to figure out who this was and narrow it down. Try to get a what's the word? A profile of the person. Yeah. So that they can.
That's what I mean by get their story straight. What do we? How do we? Because they always have that one picture that everyone gets, and you're like, why are you showing the victim looking like a jerk and the shooter you're showing his high school yearbook, where he's all nice and neat. You know what? I feel like there's always some sort of narrative attached to it when we finally get that news.
Well, it took I'm trying to think back to when Luigi did the CEO. I think it took a while for footage to get out from him. And again, it was from a nearby security camera from a restaurant or something. So it wasn't even a good picture. So I would imagine that they're trying to narrow down, because in this type of situation, what the police definitely do not want to do is post about the wrong person and say, we're looking for this suspect when it's not that person. So I'm pretty sure they want to make sure that they have very good reason to believe that whoever they're going to be showing on screen is the person of who they suspected the shooting. So there might be people of interest, as in we saw images of these people who were near the shooting. We want to question them more. So that's always a possibility as well. They could also find out who this person's family members are or friends and want to interview and talk to them first to see where this person might be. But it is disconcerting that the person is still out there. But
yeah, that to me, okay, so I have to keep making this point every couple of days. I feel like, if you embraced progressive policy, this wouldn't be a problem. Or more people would be alive right now if we just listen to the lefties, right? So I'll never not take an opportunity to reiterate that what we're looking for, and this applies to Canada, you know what I mean? This is like a global thing. What we're proposing is policy that enriches people's lives. We're not looking for handouts. We're looking for people to have the basic necessities, equal rights, the means to get an education, to be healthy, to be safe, to live your life. When they say, oh no, jobs are doing great, jobs are up, yeah, those jobs are garbage. No, and like, what can you say about the conditions on those job sites or those workplaces? And what's regulation look like? Like, it's such an empty thing to say, oh, jobs are up. But like, what we're looking for is transparency in government and agencies that are enacting and maintaining and improving programs that make lives better for everyone, not just libs or people on the left, but literally for everyone. We want to prevent situations like what happened today at all costs. Like, we are really, really fighting for this. And so that, I just want to make that point, because there's going to be a lot of people just reacting, defensively, right? It makes sense. It's natural. When you hear commentators on mainstream media, like right-wing outlets and all this stuff, saying, oh, well, this is, there's violence on both sides, or they're trying to do this too. And don't react to that in a way that does anything but says, nope, what we want is universal health care. What we want is regulation that improves people's lives, whether that's with pharmaceuticals or gun ownership. There's very smart adult ways to talk about this that emphasize the fact and reinforce the fact that our suggestions this isn't Sharia law that we're trying to impose on anyone. We're trying to give people the opportunity to just live their damn lives. And live and be alive. Those are like key words right now, because I don't agree with what Charlie Kirk ever said. I never heard one thing worth agreeing with. I don't do that broken clock is right twice a day garbage either. But like, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to say it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if anyone is responsible for contributing 80 buses to get people to the insurrection on January 6th, right, at our Capitol in the U.S., like, I would want them held accountable and punished for that, but not like this. This isn't justified. This is never justified. And so say what you want about, not you, but just people in general, say what you want about where the country's headed, where the world's headed, what we all need to be ready for, how we need to get ready, all that stuff. But don't ever stop fighting for what we on the left consider to be an ideal way of life. And it's just giving people the opportunity to live at all, because there are people dying every day and they don't have to. It's totally avoidable. Like this in particular, but like especially the people who are struggling at their jobs 70 hours, and I mean jobs plural, like per person, 70 plus hours a week, and they still can't do rent. And guess what? Rent's up again. And like, it's great that both spouses can go to work now. Oh, but guess what? Now everything costs more because we know that average household income is up. Like, it's totally unfair. It's totally slanted against everyone who's working class, and that those are the people who are not making it. Those are the people who are not living their full life or their average life expectancy. And that is a crying shame, and it's a crime. And we need to fight for legislation and policy and government agencies that protect those people, because when people are backed into a corner, they're at their wits' end, they can't take it anymore, they can't go another day. That's when this ugly stuff starts to happen. That's when things get really dire and really bad. It's all avoidable. And that's why every time you hear something that's going to piss you off in the next week or so, especially in the next couple of days, you have to remember what we stand for is a better, richer way of life. And that just means health, education, safety across the board for everyone.
Yeah.
So already in the news, I have seen one news outlet cherry pick incidences of shootings, assassination attempts, framing the left as being the violent ones. And so we're going to have to be very cautious about that in the next while. Also, don't be surprised if the crime is out of control narrative just absolutely skyrockets. And again, this is something that Trump can use to actually fulfill more of his agenda. And we have to be careful about that. We have to keep on doing what you say and pushing for here are our leftist ideals in the face of Trump wanting to use this as an excuse to distract from other issues and also say, well, see, this is proof that crime is out of control. This is proof I need to send the National Guard into these different cities. And
I mean, on the one hand, they were doing that anyway, but like the first thing I said on Blue Sky, I was trying to be vague, but everyone knows what I meant. I said, whoever did this just gave Trump's Gestapo marching orders. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the gloves weren't off, they are now. Like, there's no need to, you know, unleash and open the yard so the dogs can get out. But here we go.
Like, law enforcement isn't given out evenly across the board. It's always been disproportionate because the people who get into law enforcement are defending an authoritarian or, you know, property or right-wing type agendas. And so the backlash that people on the left will receive will always be more severe and harsh than what people on the right would receive. And the right gets away with a lot more because, again, if we look back at what happened with Hamas attacking Israel, well, Israel had killed hundreds of people, hundreds of Palestinians previously that year that never got booed. But then they used that attack as an excuse to fulfill what they wanted to do in the first place.
Right.
And so we're going to see a lot of that happening now, where a lot of people on the right will use this as an excuse to do a lot more of the authoritarian things that they wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, it's, you know, he's a martyr. He should have been in prison. The guy's instantly a martyr. He's instantly, and they'll make a martyr out of anybody. They don't, I mean, I saw footage on the Majority Report today of a girl, a college student who was trying to tell her professor that talking about different genders is against the law. Trump said so. I don't know if you saw that, but, you know, they were talking about, like, you know, leaking her identity or doxing her or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, she'd be a Fox News host the same day. Like, there would be a GoFundMe for no reason, and she would be a millionaire overnight. They would go, oh, this poor girl got kicked out of college, give her millions, and she would just be flooded with cash. Like, that's not what we want. What we want is for people to be held accountable. There is no, like, subtraction politics here. We want them in the system. You know what I always think about? It's like how bank robbers apparently live outside of the system, right? They're robbing a bank, they're stealing money, but they're going to spend that money back in the system. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little weird. So like you can't have it one way or another. Like, yeah, the system is corrupt and it's messed up. Okay, we definitely need reform. Oh, it doesn't work. We have to take matters into our own hands. No, we don't. The system doesn't work, so we need to make it work. We need to improve it, and we need to improve it in a way that holds people accountable. Like, nobody gets held accountable who truly deserves it, especially if they can just buy their way out.
Yeah, and right now, like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the motive was political, and they were on the left. What did this achieve? Because now Charlie is just going to be propelled to day-to-day status almost. You know, his words, like, if you were trying to silence his words, they're going to be so much louder now. You know, this will bring so much more attention to Turning Point. This will bring so much attention to his rhetoric. You know, people will start lauding it even more than they were before because he will be seen as that martyr. And it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, there's memorials and, like, it wouldn't surprise me these days if there'd be a statue to him on that location, you know, in the next year.
Yeah. I mean, nothing surprises me now, unfortunately. It's like, if you can imagine, it could be real tomorrow. The just one more note I want to make is just in terms of our collective here. We, you know, this is a group, and I have, like, I never go live at this hour because the sun comes right through this window. I don't know. It looks like
I see it. I see it.
so
It just makes you look a little bit
distracting
more
to me.
radiant. Makes you more radiant.
I think I have sunglasses nearby. Anyway, this is a collective, and so I just want to let everyone know that we we don't censor people. We don't tell people what to say. I don't know if this is, I think this is maybe even happened with you, Sandy, where you asked me, is it okay to do this? And I'm like, yeah, do whatever you want. I don't care. But like, we truly,
I don't think it was me.
well, but like, this is how we roll is like, it's your show. You want to change the format of your show? Change it. We don't care.
Oh,
But
no,
like,
maybe it was me about doing minuet.
Maybe, yeah, okay, that might have been it. I could see that. But like, we're totally cool with it. But there are YouTube guidelines that are not only strict, but like reinterpreted on the fly, apparently. Like they can just translate what you said any way that suits them. We don't even know if them are people or robots. We have no idea. But like, we have a very mature and responsible and trustworthy group at this collective, this space. But even still, just so everyone knows, we haven't been live long enough. We haven't been on air long enough for something like this to have happened. And so we do make it known to all of our contributors that there are YouTube guidelines of what those are, what we can get away with. Now, most people already know this, right? Because we're not bringing people on who have never done this work before, so they get it. But like, we do make a point of saying it. We tell all the mods, hey, this is going down. This is what we're looking for. This is what we have to remove. And we tell all our hosts. And I also have to tell the chat. And we do this in the hopes that nobody will be offended. We're not here to, this is our chance to censor people. Finally, a reason. We're not doing that. Or we would have been censoring people all along. This is one of those unique situations where we have to ask everyone to take the collective to heart. There's more than one person involved here. If one of us messes up, it could affect everyone. That's just the case. And so we're asking everyone, and we'll do periodic reminders tonight. This is a hate the game, not the player situation. If we have to remove your content or your chat, please don't be offended. And luckily, none of our, I haven't looked in the last 20 minutes, but luckily none of our contributors are offended by that either. They all get it. So again, we're not off the cuff. This isn't like a corporation, but we are doing things responsibly and to the best of our ability. And I just want to reassure everyone that this space is intent on staying on the air and growing our numbers in terms of being a group of a collective. And we've got your back, and we ask that you have our back too. Because they look at the chat. YouTube algorithm will pick stuff up in the chat, and that's enough. Yeah.
So I'm just reading from the AP right now. So 9 minutes ago, the local mayor urges people to report anything suspicious. Shooting suspect remains at large. Let's see. Utah's governor speaks with Trump, vows to bring shooter to justice. And this is where we get into, very tricky territory of the police need to make damn sure they know have a good idea who the suspect is before they start announcing it, because I don't trust a lot of the police to be very not forceful, if you get my drift,
right, with
apprehending the person.
I'm just trying to look something
up. There's a good chance that, if there's a standoff of any sort, that the person who is the suspected shooter might not make it out. There could be an instant, like a situation where, there's a barricade if they narrow in on the suspect. So the police are going to be very reluctant, I think, to mention who the suspect is, because they don't want them to potentially barricade themselves in a place with hostages or something of that sort. Right. They're going to want to make sure that they know who it is, but then also they don't want people to retaliate against people who might be completely innocent of this. So
I was reading on CNN, they're checking classrooms and buildings is another reason why they've shut the campus down, evacuated. They just want to make sure that's all clear. I have to imagine a standard operating procedure. Just want to mention, though, we are 3 months past the political assassination of Melissa Hortman, and the rep from Minnesota. That left the news way too quickly. This is a real problem. These aren't one-offs. Okay, it's 3 months is a very short period of time. It's like,
to that point, actually, the AP is just mentioning that specifically here. I'm just going to pop that up. So Kirk's killing follows political violence elsewhere around the country this year. Kirk's killing follows instances of political violence in the United States in recent months, including the assassination of Democratic Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband in June, and the fatal shooting of 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington in May. Brad Koch, an assistant professor at public communication at American University, says little is known yet about the shooter or the motive, but he says it can't be ignored that the polarization and normalization of violence have become threaded through U.S. politics. Brad Koch pointed to data from Princeton University Bridging Divides initiative, which shows that the threat of harassment incidents against local officials have been on the gradual rise. His back up. We're moving to a very dangerous direction, and I think we have been moving in this direction for some time.
Yeah, and it was Hortman and Hoffman in Minnesota. This is I mean, it's like I was just saying, we can't treat these as one-offs. We can't treat this as like, hey, it happens. There's a degree of chaos in every democracy. Or, oh, hey, if you take away all the guns from the good guys, only the bad guys. Like, I don't care what all your excuses are. If you can even speculate that they are politically motivated, it's really time to do something. If it wasn't before, it definitely is now. It's really time to do something, because it's that sense of not having any other options. It's when people feel like there's nothing to lose. That's when it gets extreme. Now, look, I'll always remember how all of the healthcare CEOs took their faces and names off their about pages. Like the very next day, they were all like, we're out. And the reason why I'll never forget that is because the people who left them up know that they have nothing to fear. They're not bad. It's like, well, it kind of makes you look guilty, So my version of this is okay, you're a politician, right? There are politically motivated acts of violence, and let's say no one even died from it. Wouldn't you, of all people, want to do something about it? Like, I'm not a healthcare CEO, and I definitely want to do something about this. I'm not, and I'm not saying, protect healthcare CEOs. I mean, come on, they should be doing their job to protect. I mean, it's not even really healthcare. Let's be serious. But when is enough enough? Like, it really does shine a light on the fact that these people aren't being, they're not running, campaigning, or getting elected or serving in order to actually do anything that would, or to actually do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, prove me wrong, please. Like, by all means, somebody out there, prove me wrong, right? Like, can at least, how many politicians does it take to, I assume they have lunch together, right? Are they not talking about this? Like, how many does it take off air or offline or behind the scenes to go, holy shit, we should really do something about this, right? Like, the healthcare CEO that took over for that guy who was assassinated said publicly, this is me, I'm taking over, I'm not going to do anything different than the last guy. And I was like, really? Do you want to be saying that publicly? Just think for a second, right? But now you have all of Congress in that situation, right? Like, At what point do they freak out and go, we got to do something? We have to.
Well, the thing is I was pointing this out earlier, is that the shooting of the CEO, it didn't change anything policy-wise.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Like, it didn't change.
But the
and that was
rhetoric kind of, they were like, oh, it's bad. I mean, a lot of people were like, that poor guy and his family and everything.
And this has been escalating for a while because people aren't being held accountable for political violence. Because we can go back to, there was that kidnapping attempt of the one governor, I believe. And at least then some people were charged. But, you know, I think a lot of this goes back to January 6th and the attempted insurrection and the fact that so many people who were attempting political violence got away with it. And people are seeing this as sometimes the only way they can imagine achieving their goals, because they don't feel that the system is working for them, because it's not. And so they want to try to take matters into their own hands. But the problem is, this doesn't actually change the system to benefit people. It will only change the system to crack down on people.
Right. I mean, we could have this. Do you know how many times somebody's like, what's wrong with that person? I'm like, probably no universal or probably no health care. They probably, you know, I'm not saying they should be on meds, but maybe they need them and they can't get them. I don't know. Maybe it's just insulin. Like, there's so much out there that we could be doing. And instead, they're sort of like letting the worst things come about.
We don't have these issues here in Canada. Like, there were like people threatening like Justin Trudeau and stuff. But like these types of things, we don't see at the same scale, but we have the same media. Like, people are like, oh, there's a cultural difference. Not really. Like, we have all the same media. We watch all the same movies. We play all the same games. We see the same CNN and Fox News that Americans are seeing. And we simply do not have a lot of the same problems because people here aren't as desperate. Because I can go to a hospital. And even though, yes, I have my critiques about the Canadian healthcare system and the fact that it is starting to crumble and that it is being privatized, and that's the reason why it's starting to crumble, and there needs to be more money put into it public-wise. But, you know, I can go to the hospital. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not terrified for my family members that they won't get the health care that they need. It's the very basics to live with that. Whereas in the States, when you have nothing left to lose, that's when you become very dangerous, because then it's like, well, what's the point? You know, I'm not going to lose anything. Things can't get worse for me after this. Let's put it that way. So if things can't get worse for them and they get into that situation, then they're more likely to lash out like this. So healthcare definitely would help. Mental health care, which isn't actually covered under Canada's universal health care, would help. But also, just again, basic needs, like it's that leftist agenda. If people could afford a place to live, if they could afford groceries, if they could afford an education, if they had a job that wasn't killing them, crime levels would plummet. They would absolutely plummet. And it's important to keep in mind that we are on the right side of this issue. It's just a matter of, we're going to have to bunker down for the next little while.
I would like to point out, I have an update on another story. This is from CNN, updated 37 minutes ago. At least 3 injured after shooting at a Denver area high school, officials say. This is the 46th school shooting this year. This happened today. But I don't think anyone's talking about this at the moment. This is probably what we should be talking about, because look, TPUSA didn't do anything to stop this from happening. How far away? They
actually made it easier.
They made it easier. How far away are we from either everyone being a victim or very close to a victim, like your family, coworker, friend? How far away are we from that in this country in terms of no regulation, right? And that includes, I'm just making this point again, that includes the exact same people who are making this easier to happen. It's Congress, and it's also like a lot of right-wing media.
Yeah. And, somebody was pointing out that Canada has very smaller population, but, when it comes to gun ownership, when you look at per capita, it's very similar to the United States. However, the quantity isn't there and the lethality isn't there. Like we aren't allowed, guns that could do mass shootings. We're allowed hunting rifles and handguns. And even then, after the last kind of mass shooting in Canada, there were laws put in place. So I believe the gun buy and selling is still on freeze, like handguns. You can't buy or sell them. You can own them still legally if you have them, but you can't buy new ones and you can't sell the ones that you have. And, gun crime, like I was saying, I've never had to worry about being shot when I'm out at an event, when I go to school, when I'm in a mall. That's never anything that has ever crossed my mind here in Canada. And I was at a university event one time, and they had American students that had come up to the class, and it was some sort of conversation circle. And they said that they didn't realize how much stress that they were living in constantly until they got here. And just the overwhelming relief that they felt of having this background noise of the gun violence that they face on a regular basis in the States was gone. It's something like it's like the fish in water. You don't notice it until you're out of it. And they said it's quite the stark contrast when it's not there. So you always have these underlying stresses in the United States that we don't have the equivalent of up here, because it's not only the gun violence in the States, it's any sort of health condition that somebody might get in the family. That's an underlying stress that's always, always there. And that doesn't lead to a healthy society. It doesn't lead to, progress the way that you want, because people's energy is diverted to dealing with this stress that you're having to cope with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I saw DJX was asking if, how sorry, I lost the chat, but it's like, how realistic is it that our country or government could take away all the guns? This is my thing. Make it more difficult. They only make it easier. I live in a state where you don't, I forget what they call it. It's like the honor system for getting a gun license. They're like, we assume you're going to get the license down the road, but here's the gun and the ammo now. So like you can just like have a bad day, go in and buy it and do the horrible thing that another couple of weeks you probably would have been like, whoa, I talked to somebody, I calmed down, it was just a dark moment or whatever. This happens a lot. And so make it more difficult. How about liability insurance? How come I can't drive a car without liability insurance, but like, oh, I can have a gun? That's insane. Think of the people that could have been injured, innocent bystanders. This guy apparently had training. His aim showed that he was training, but like, give me a break. Anything could have happened. There's a crowd of people there. It's too risky. And so, you think of all the things that could have happened to somebody, and you're not necessarily liable. I live very close to a gun range. Could also just be somebody's yard, right? Because there's a lot of acreage out here, or down here. I never know. And so it's always a risk to me to be outside when I hear that, because I'm like, I don't know, how far away is that? How far can a bullet travel accidentally? You know what I mean? So this is just like the reality we live in, and it's not cool. And so, this is why I'm astounded at the fact that there's no regulation. And that it only gets easier. And that with the second there's a tragedy, people are like, hey, it's too soon. Don't talk about it. Thoughts and prayers. Don't bring up don't make it political. 3 minors today in Denver. That's insane. At least 3 students are in critical condition, minors, and they don't have the guy in custody. There's 100 law enforcement on scene. Like, that's all avoidable. Those cops could have had a slow day, but no,
Yeah, and to, you know, I was seeing in subspace here some people talking about like it's not realistic for the states to ever be gun free, and at this current point, of course not, it isn't. But the things, it has to be done, unfortunately, gradually. So you have to have the proper gun laws in place, you know, the background checks, all that sort of stuff. There has to be buyback programs for people. There then has to be limits on the type of guns that you can get. So you start restricting the types of firearms that people can get. And this all has to be done gradually. However, until the underlying issues in the United States, in the society, when it comes to housing and cost of living and all that sort of stuff, until that's dealt with, it's impossible to deal with the gun issue. Because sometimes it's people's only defense. Sometimes, you know, it is just like one straw too many. You've already taken away my rights in this and this and this area. You don't get to take away my gun rights as well. And so there's a very big cultural difference when it comes to gun ownership, and the entitlement that people feel towards owning guns in the United States. And so a lot of that entitlement would go away just naturally if people weren't so desperate, if people weren't in constant fear that their city might be taken over by the National Guard. You know, if there wasn't this constant fear of violence, this constant fear of you're going to need this for survival down the road. And so it's, unfortunately for a lot of people in the States, it's not going to happen anytime soon. But you have countries like Australia, you have countries like Canada, where this started a long time ago, but it was never in our constitutions that everyone had the freedom to own weapons for murder or killing, because that's the thing about handguns in particular, is that there's no other use for it other than this is something, an instrument of potential death. You know, like a knife can have multiple uses, a rifle can have multiple uses because you can use it for hunting and stuff. But handguns are specifically something designed to take a person's life. Same with a lot of the military grade weapons that civilians have in the United States without proper training or counseling or checking to see where their headspace is at before they have them. But those weapons are just specifically designed to take out humans. And civilians should not have things that are specifically designed to take out other humans.
Yeah, and I just, you know, this is, I'm going to sound like a broken record for sure, but just a reminder, in the next 24 hours, in the coming days and weeks, every chance you get, our way, our policy, our suggestion, the candidates we fight for, it's all meant to have a better way of life where we can avoid this kind of tragedy. It is a tragedy. Look, some people you can't convince, and some people are in a position where they can do a lot of harm, and you have to try and shut that down and get them held accountable as soon as possible, right? And you have to keep combating everything they say. You have to keep countering everything they say, all the points they make. That's not true. These are the facts, and so on. But the best thing that could ever happen, like this is totally unrealistic. I do not think this ever would have happened. I'm just speculating because we're on air. But like, what if, 5 years from now, Charlie Kirk is like, I can't believe I used to be such a jerk. I can't believe I did that. Like, it's horrible. And you know what's funny is now I don't have any funding now that I'm on the left. Like, just what if, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always looking for that opportunity. I have colleagues who think that's far more realistic than I do. I don't think it's realistic at all. But I'm looking for that opportunity to pull somebody to the left and then further left because I'm on the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to recruit people to reinforce the talking points that I'm getting paid to say. I'm not trying to bring people into, our political ideology to bolster our numbers. I'm trying to do it to bolster our numbers so that we can achieve these policies. Mm-hmm. That is what I'm talking about. They're realistic or not, you don't stop fighting for that. Like whether you can even bring one person from the center further left, why would you not do that? We're not throwing in the towel. We're not giving up. The next generation will only suffer if, I always forget the exact phrase, but it's like, we don't plant trees that we'll enjoy the shade of. That's for somebody else. Like, we plant these trees so the next guy can sit in the shade. I don't plan on having any shade in my lifetime. Oh, well. So, I have a lot of comic books to keep me occupied, but like the thing is, the fight is ongoing. It's a constant struggle. It's not anything you would give up. And so remind people, we want healthcare for everyone. We want better wages, better working conditions, free public education. And like, if they're like, why do you want everyone having something for free? It's like, why don't you? What is this? There's plenty of money out there. This is all doable. It's all doable. So, just don't miss the opportunity to remind people of that by getting caught up in the vitriol and the hate, especially on Twitter. Sandy, I don't know if you're still on Twitter, but
no, I am. That's where I saw the footage.
So, like, I don't know how. Like, I say this with, you and I are tight, right? Like, we're solid. Like, I don't know if people know this, but like, you and I are pals, and you were my first moderator, and I couldn't have launched a platform without you. So, like, you and I are solid. But I have to tell you that your view of the world is that much more distorted for being on Twitter. That is a fucking weird lens to be looking through. And the second you get off that, you realize it's a lot different.
I'm pretty good at figuring out the two.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like standing in a room full of like harmful fumes and going, I'm pretty good at holding my breath in the right moments. You can't.
Twitter is a hostile fart sauna, so.
It's the worst place ever.
But it is, it is very relevant because people keep on saying, well, it's just online. It's not real life. But, more and more online is real life. And, I just want to go back and bolster your point that you can't rehabilitate the dead. And if you don't believe in the death penalty, you shouldn't believe in something like this, because this is basically an execution without a trial.
Right.
And I don't know if you want to go over it, but, I'm just looking at CNN update, and already some of the fallout, like, again, if hypothetically speaking, we don't know the motives, the person was on the left, what were they hoping to achieve? Because Charlie Kirk is already being propped up as a saint, as a hero, as, a great guy. It's, what's that term when you retroactively make somebody better? There's a term for it.
Oh, you sanitize their reputation.
Yeah, sanitize the reputation. And so that's already happening. Because you have like Donald Trump Jr., Stephen Miller, former Vice President Pence, like all these people are just praising him and all these good things that he was. And he was a close friend to Speaker Mike Johnson and all this sort of stuff. So he's already being sanitized, his reputation, whereas he's probably caused some of the most damage to the United States possible with the help of electing Donald Trump, with Turning Points USA. Like that is, he has done significant damage to the United States, but right now he's being sanitized online.
He's one of the main proponents for it is what it is, people die. And that's not just for the gun stuff and the Second Amendment, but like, vaccines and all that stuff. He was just one of these, his go-to argument was nothing you can do. Oh, really? Nothing you can do, huh? I'd love to hear his thoughts on that right now. Oh, we can't. See what I'm saying? Like, at what point and it's not enough to just like, cheer about that, right? I'm not happy about that fact, because this is going to be everybody. How close are we to, I was talking about in 5 years, and I immediately saw in the chat, does Matt know there won't be a 5 years from now? But like, I'm going to keep struggling for that. I'm going to keep fighting for tomorrow. You know what I mean? But like, I know I'm like I make myself feel crazy when I say this, but like the people who are most at risk aren't doing anything about it.
Mhm.
And it's going to be to the point where we're all in the same boat. And it's scary. I don't know if it scares me or it disappoints me more that we would end up there, but it's baffling to me that these people are just, if somebody, you know, I mean, we had a political assassination 3 months ago.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They're like killing their spouses. They're like trying to, this is it. Like, look at what happened today. This is it. Like, it's gonna, how many times was Trump almost taken out? Like, what more do we have to do? Are people really just gonna continue to use this for their, you know, like, are they putting it on their resumes now? Like 3 assassination attempts. Like, it's a badge of honor. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just fucking look, how hard would it be to just make the gun laws back to where they were 10 years ago? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even have to be like original about it. Just go back.
Yeah.
Just redo what you undid. It's that easy.
But it's one of those things too, where people need to be aware of the policies that they are trumpeting. That those policies, they're not safe from those policies. So like Charlie with his pro-gun stances and stuff like that, even with his wealth and status, it doesn't mean that he's safe from that. So again, I warn people against going on like online and stuff and celebrating this, because you know, that same type of thing can happen to anyone. And you know, I don't like the idea of right-wingers going online and celebrating my death should it happen.
Yeah, and people really do have to be careful about talking about this stuff casually, because it's entirely likely. I mean, I lived in Colorado for years. I may know there could be a ripple effect that's not such a ripple in this case. I have to call people now. I have to look into it. And I have to make sure I don't know anyone who was harmed today. Like, you can't just go, you know, oh no, we should all arm up, blah, 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 blah. Because look, somebody might totally agree with you. But like when it's so close to the moment. So on the one hand, they use this tactic as a tactic where they go, hey, it's too soon, don't talk about it. On the other hand, just kind of like, you know, don't casually talk about offset. Like, what they mean is it's too soon to talk about it by making it political and having some sort of like, you know, policy change. What I mean is just be cool to the people around you, because it could, I hate that we use the term triggering, but it could be. Do you know what I mean? It could trigger certain emotions. I mean, I was joking around about my hesitancy to get a prostate exam. That's how I deal with the situation. But I was joking, and people got really upset because like a loved one had died from prostate cancer. And I was like, okay, we can't casually talk about this stuff. And, you know, this is how I process. So I was just joking around for myself. But like, that's just an example of how easy it is to find somebody who it's not funny to. Do you know what I mean? So like, okay, I get it. But like in terms of guns, like no one who doesn't have a strong reaction to this topic, no matter what side you're on, you're going to have a strong reaction. And so we just really have to, like, I try to pump the brakes as soon as it happens, whether I'm mourning or have a sense of relief or whatever it may be. I don't want to be too outward about that in the moment. I want to dial it back a little bit. Like, I used to have a right-wing neighbor who would call me and go, what do you think now? And I'm like, dude, it just broke on the news. Like, relax. What the fuck? Can we all just chill for a second? Like, the whole keep the debate going. We got to argue about it. No, we don't really. You know where you stand. You can make arguments and convince people, but why weren't we doing that yesterday instead of today? Do you know what I mean? You're doing it now because we all have strong reactions. And so, you know, it's just my advice to people is like, listen, I guess, and like write your thoughts down and maybe just be cool around people if you don't know for a fact they haven't had, a loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Apparently, American flags are lowered at the White House.
Yeah.
Because again, this is going to have such a huge, because of who Charlie Kirk was, there's going to have a very huge political impact. And I'm worried about how Trump will use this to justify what he's about to do.
Yeah. I mean, he was going to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he was doing some pretty awful stuff. Can you just imagine?
Mm-hmm.
He could invade Canada. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't put anything past this guy.
As somebody who lives in a very annexable part of Canada, that is something I am worried about.
Think about how, and I feel like I can talk to you about it because this is sort of your job. But tell me if I'm off base. But I wouldn't put it past our military to go along with this guy either. Apparently we're running operations in Mexico. I think that there's just enough people involved in the military that are like, no, yeah, we like constant, endless war.
I'm not entirely sure it would be the same enthusiasm coming up to Canada, for one thing, predominantly white. Also, there's a lot of crossover from family members and people who know each other and friends across the border. So, down in Mexico, you still have a lot of crossover of friends and family and stuff like that. But a lot of people who are in the military are there for the wrong reasons. And so they don't see it, they wouldn't see it the same invading Mexico as they would see it as invading Canada for reasons.
I see.
But I don't see a boots on the ground type annexation for Canada. I see it being done through economics and things of that sort.
I think that I feel like just, considering this administration is racist and bigoted, I feel like they're more inclined to negotiate with Canada than Mexico. You know what I mean? I think it's a different situation, and also Sandy, I watched the hour that you were on and I was like, I wonder what she's going to cover, if she's going to cover this or not. And you did a great job. You set the tone perfectly right away in letting people know where you come from, but also representing the left in this case. And I just, thanks again for doing that. I know I can rely on you, but it was, pretty sharp.
Yeah,
this is where you say, I learned from you, Matt. I learned from the best. I learned by watching you.
Sure. No, I blame my autism, actually.
Okay.
Because I have emotional delays with a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I can speak more calmly in a moment when things are unfolding quite often because I haven't processed it yet.
That'll work though, right? I mean, that's not always, if you can make it work for you, good job.
Mm-hmm.
I have a show at 9:00 and I was going to talk about something totally different. I wonder if everyone will be up for it by that point. I don't know. Right now, everyone's live everywhere.
Yeah. At some point, I think people will get burnt out and they'll want to hear something completely different because there's only so much commentary that we can give that just is us repeating ourselves over and over again. And so in the first few hours after an event like this, it's important to be on here and talking about it, not just because we're giving our opinions and stuff, but because people need a place to go. They need a place to also help process what has happened, because this is going to put people on edge. People on the left and people on the right, they're going to need somewhere where they can go to hear commentary about it, to process what is happening, to not suddenly be feeling like they're being left in a void when it comes to something as, big as this. And so it's important for the first few hours to have live coverage, even if you don't know much of what's happening, just for the support of the community to be out there. But come a certain time after so much, people might get exhausted and they might be burnt out from the subject. So then it'd be important to, gracefully move into something else. But it's all depending on the the show and stuff like that. Like, you know what I was going to talk about today?
Huh?
Back when Canada burnt down the White House.
Oh, what is that? What are you talking about?
Well, it wasn't technically Canada. It was back in 1814.
Okay. Oh, I don't need any spoilers, but you're going to talk about it next week now? I'm interested. Like, save it for us or do it on your show?
Well, I tend to do topics like that on this space because it's geared more towards the American audience.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's just bits of history and stuff. Like there was the War of 1812. And so the United States actually said back then, you know what, we're going to take part of Canada because the British, well, it wasn't called Canada back then. We were still a British colony because the British keep on arming the indigenous peoples, and it's making it hard for us to do our colonial settlism, the manifest destiny. So we're going to declare war on Britain, and that didn't turn out so well because in 1814 we ended up burning down the White House.
Okay.
So I was going to cover that.
This. What? I
You
mean,
do not know this?
Now look, everyone
Canada
knows
yeah.
my education formally started like 10 years ago. I got very far in life without knowing shit. I'm just kind of charming when I need to be.
The thing is in Canada, we tend to take credit for the good things that happened before 1867, but not the bad things. So we'll be like, oh yeah, Canada burnt down the White House, but then we'll never say, well, Canada had slavery because that ended before the British North American Act, which is what made Canada Canada. But we burnt down the White House before then, so Canadians totally take credit for that.
Nice.
It was during James Madison and his wife Dolly. They saved a portrait and stuff of that sort. And even back then, the Americans were like, "Oh yeah, Canada will be easy pickings, and they'll welcome the invasion." A lot of them will welcome the invasion. It's like no different than Trump saying now that we would welcome becoming the 51st state.
I'm sure Stephen Miller sat him down and was like, they burnt the White House down one time, right? This is what they were saying. I know. I mean, come on. Where did he get this idea? Otherwise, you would have heard Trump say it before. I mean, the guy had never.
I think he has referenced it. I think
before
Trump has referenced
the presidency,
yeah.
Really? Before
no,
like his first
during.
Oh, okay, yeah, during, right.
I think he's still bitter about it. Yeah, I think he's still bitter about it.
I bet he said nobody knew. Nobody knew this.
Yeah,
we all just found out today. When I found out,
but it was
idiot.
Yeah, the Washington was saved by a hurricane, putting out all the fires.
There was, wow, really, that's nuts. I had it right like months before I moved from Colorado. There was a terrible wildfire on like Christmas Eve, and the only thing that put it out was a blizzard. I was like, all right, I'm out of here. These extremes are a little too wild for me. But like, I was out of there anyway. But to be fair, I had something planned for tonight, or have something planned for tonight that I think is relevant and important. And people have been using a specific term in the last week or two. And I do not, term, not a phrase, a term. I don't like when people use terms and just assume we all know what they're talking about. And this one term, hilariously, either people think they know what it means and they don't, or they know what it means and they don't know the origins of where it came from. It's one of those things that people will casually say a lot in terms of journalism. It's a kind of journalism, but there's a very good chance they either don't know the origins of it or they have it wrong. It's like when I first heard it, and it has to do with comic books even, or comic strips, but like how comics are made. It's wild, and it's a artistic and a production side of it, and it's a snapshot of American history, and I think it's a great topic. I think people would love to know this stuff. I actually think it's required. I hate when people know GOP means grand old party. I don't think we should say that at all. But like when they say GOP, are you avoiding saying Republicans? why aren't you just saying Republicans? You know what I mean? Why are you saying GOP? Is it really that much quicker to say? That's silly. Like, so when people, you know, use terms loosely or throw it around, or like in the case of the last couple of weeks, people have been using this one term to make like a definite point. And they're like, it's this is what they're doing. And I'm like, and you're not going to explain what it is? Then why make that point? So anyway, now I'm like being cryptic about it, but I think I might talk about it anyway tonight, just to have like a breather.
Yeah, I think by that time people will need, you know, just a change of pace, because this can be overwhelming.
How fast does the news move, right?
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
be
'cause-
funny. It's like if we're talking about it on Left Past 10 tonight, and the audience is like, guys, come on, this happened this afternoon. Get over it.
Sorry, I thought I heard my cat doing something they weren't supposed to do.
I almost got a cat the other day.
Yeah, I think like if the status of Charlie Kirk was unknown still, I think this type of coverage could go on basically until there was some sort of update on that. But right now, it's just a matter of helping people process it. The only other kind of breaking news we could get at this point is that they get a suspect. And then once they get the suspect, then there's going to be the issue of, okay, so what was their motivation? Do they have a manifesto? Do they have this? And then that will cause another barrage of people needing to talk and stuff, especially if the person is a radical left-winger, and then all the hate that will be coming our way. And just, you know, being there for moral support for each other, embracing each other for what is about to come our way. But again, we still don't know who this person was, what their motivation were. And unlike the right, it's not healthy to just assume, because there's people who do these sorts of things are not well. You know, they're not mentally stable. So it could be for any number of reasons. Charlie could have had a stalker. You know, like it's there's multiple reasons, not just political.
The idea that somebody would do this thinking like this is what everyone wants tells me that there's no way they were actually paying attention, or they were in some isolated group.
Nobody does this sorts of thing because they're doing it for other people. They're doing it for their own reasons, because they want to propel themselves to fame. They feel aggrieved by this person. They feel they want to let out their anger, their hatred. They're not doing this on behalf of society. It's always based on something within them. They're doing it for themselves. And so it could just be that Charlie rubbed this person the wrong way in any number of ways. And this person decided to take it out on him. But it's not for the well-being of society, because even if we go back to Luigi shooting the CEO, he wasn't shooting the CEO to make the world a better place. He was doing that because he was angry over his health conditions and what he was suffering.
Yeah, and then here come all the candles with him sainted, and it's like a little weird.
No, he wasn't doing this to make a world a better place. He did it because of his own aggrievements. And so I would imagine that whoever did this wasn't trying to make a world the better place, but they have their own internal personal reasons, and it was about them and not even necessarily even about Charlie. Thank you for watching. I hope this was informative and you got a different perspective. Again, stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to be posting a video about the fallout since his unaliving. In particular, there's Canadian connections and bents to it that I will be focusing on. So, with all of that, salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.